Artificial intelligence has come a long way since its inception in 1950s. Over the years, it has evolved from simple rule-based programs to sophisticated algorithms capable of performing complex tasks. Now, today, AI is a driving force behind emerging technologies like robotics and the Internet of Things, and the list goes on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Dayalani. Now, some people imagine artificial intelligence as an absolute and immovable concept, like as a single reality. However, AI is an ever expanding field of scientific research. Thus, since the first rudimentary conceptions of this discipline in the mid 20th century, I think the evolution of AI has taken different speeds at different times, and which is more or less driven by technological advances, economic investments, and also great talents. So, I think the history of AI that has developed in parallel to the human evolution itself, it is merely expanding by its initial meaning and it's going beyond imagination. So, what it is like to be an innovator in this field? Let's welcome Neeraj Gehani, Head of Product AI ML Products and Platform at Dunnhumby. Hi Neeraj, how are you doing?
Good morning, Priya. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing good too. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you with us on a podcast today, Neeraj. And of course, I think our today's podcast is purely focused on your journey in this evolving field of AI. And I probably we like to gain more insights from an experienced and expert leader like you. So let's start by telling us that what exactly is your role at Dunnhumby, and what are your contributions in the AI world?
Thanks for having me, Priya. So, I currently work as a head of product for AI/ML products and platform at Dunnhumby. We are a data science company working very closely with retailers and advertisers, and I work in the world of retail media and personalization. Overall, I have industry experience of around 20 years. I started my career in the world of business and market intelligence, then did telecom analytics for both B2B and B2C players, and then joined Dunnhumby in 2012, launching and scaling loyalty and personalization programs. So I worked with multiple retailers across the globe, from North America to Europe to Latin America. And now I am in the position of a product head of product, where we are working with retailers and advertisers to build next generation retail media platform on the foundations of AI/ML technologies. Beyond this, I actively share my thoughts with students and industry leaders. So I'm a regular guest speaker and faculty at business schools, where I talk about big data, product analytics, and AI product management. So that's me.
Great. Thank you for walking us through your journey, and of course through your role. I think it's clear that your efforts and experience are playing a very critical part in driving innovation and responsibility in the overall AI space. I think, but if we observe closely, I think behind every innovative leader is a moment, or maybe even a series of moments that sparked their passion and set them on a particular path. And when it comes to a space as transformative and fast moving as AI, that origin story becomes even more fascinating. So, before we dive deeper into the credible work your organization is doing in the AI landscape, I would like to take a step back. I want to understand what initially sparked your interest in AI, and what was it about this field that inspired you to build a career around it, especially at such a pivotal time in its evolution?
Yeah, that's a great question, Priya. And I think it's very easy to connect the dots looking backwards rather than planning things. But if I look back at my schooling time, I think maths and physics, those were the subjects which I actually loved. And then I did my engineering and MBA. So I was always very quantitatively oriented. I think when I started working in the industry somewhere around 2005, I think the natural gravitation was towards working on something analytical. And what caught my interest, and the industry is very well defined today, but at that point of time in 2005, 2006, it was just starting to take up. But when I entered the field, I think the drive was that I found the area very, very intellectually stimulating. And this whole concept of using data to drive decisions, combined with intuition, that actually caught my attention. So I remember, right, working with tools like SAS at very early stages, and it was just amazing to see the power of a software tool where with the click of a button you can actually analyze a lot of data, get to understand the trends, model out the future behavior. But yeah, that actually sparked that interest, and this is something maybe I would love to build my career on.
Right, pretty interesting, and it's really fascinating to hear your story, Neeraj, and thank you for sharing that with our audience. And moving ahead, I think my next question is something that I've been really looking forward to asking, especially given the pace at which AI has grown and reshaped industries over the last few years. So, as a leader navigating this transformation firsthand, your insights are incredibly valuable because you have witnessed AI evolve from being a buzzword to becoming a core driver of innovation and efficiency. So I'm curious, like when you reflect on your own journey from the early days of exploring AI to now being at the helm of a company leveraging its capabilities, how has your perspective on AI shifted? And like what are some of the milestones or benchmarks or realizations for that matter that kind of influenced that evolution, and it has also helped you grow as a leader in this transformative journey?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Priya. And if I look back, I think at early days of career, right, everyone starts looking at algorithms, and they want to use the most sophisticated algorithms to solve a business problem. But over the last 2 decades of my work, I have realized that we need to think about algorithms and their power to change the business and to take the business forward rather than just looking at the algorithmic sophistication. So that's something which has changed, right? How do you actually use the power of data and AI to push the business forward rather than doing analytics for the sake of doing analytics? The other key realization is it's hard to collect and structure data, align teams and investments, and prove the ROI, and then embed the AI/ML in decision making and day-to-day processes. And it's a very hard journey. It's a big cultural change. I think one of the big realizations I have had is that everyone wants to talk about analytics. They want to implement analytics, but the hard work, the nuts and bolts of setting it up, thinking about how would you capture the data, how would you structure it, how would you embed that into your decision making and propositions, how will you make it customer facing if it's an customer facing application. I think that requires a lot of rigor, and I don't think we have enough professionals today who can think through end-to-end value chain. I've been lucky to have a series of experiences which have shaped my thinking over the last couple of years. But yeah, a big realization is that data and AI, looking at raw data and converting it into intelligence, it requires a lot of hard work and rigor. It may seem really niche and polished from outside, but like any industry, like any business, it requires a lot of hard work to build those capabilities. I think the other thing which I've realized is, with a lot of startups and digital transformation happening, the industry is moving towards looking at embedding AI more from a product lens rather than from a services lens. So what that means is that we need more and more professionals who are able to work backwards from the user experience, think about how analytics can transform that experience, and then work backwards to think about what data may be required to be able to do so. And I think those are some of the perspectives which have really evolved over the last couple of years of my work in this industry.
Right. I think that's a very insightful reflection, I must say, because it's always fascinating to hear how someone's relationship with AI transforms over time, especially when, the technology is evolving so rapidly. I'm very impressed by the way your perspective has shifted. I mean, there must have been times where you must have been optimistic or probably more cautious or even perhaps more nuanced. So it really highlights how, dynamic this field is. And I also think that, your experience really resonates with a lot of professionals and organizations out there who are trying to make sense of this ever changing landscape. So I think it's a reminder that embracing AI is not just about adopting new capabilities. Is about evolving your mindsets also along the way, and passing that to in the hierarchy in your organization as well. Of course, we discussed about the evolution, but I believe that the evolution of AI has been a gradual process with several stages of development since its inception. Now, the early years were marked by rule-based systems where AI was programmed to follow a set of rules and solve problems. I think that time the systems were limited in their ability to handle very complex tasks, and they required some advanced programming for each new problem. But today, if you look at AI, I think it's become a ubiquitous technology, and it's impacting every aspects of our lives. It is used in a wide range of applications, whether it's texting, writing, creating an image, design, or even an audio or music. I think it's just a tip of the iceberg. So. Having said that, I want to understand what are your current views on the current landscape of AI?
Yeah, I think your reflection, Priya, is spot on. And I think I say on behalf of seasoned industry professionals working in this area, this is one of the best time to be in this industry. Everything is moving very fast, and then what we are now witnessing is an equivalent of an industrial revolution. Hundreds of years back, and launch of internet in 1990s. So it's an impact at that level. There's a lot of excitement on Gen AI use cases, which can really change the way we operate today, right? And the impact is going to be far fetched across industries. I think while there is a lot of excitement, right? So if you look at any source, look at any podcast, LinkedIn, wherever you go, right? Everyone is just talking about this area. But I'm cautious, right, that we need to also separate facts from fiction. What that means is, how do you identify use cases in any of the industries, whether it's external or internal, where you actually need Gen AI rather than implementing AI for the sake of AI. And I think I see a lot of fear of missing out, right? That everyone is talking about it. This conversation now has moved up from data scientists and AI product people talking about it to boardroom conversations in terms of what you are doing about Gen AI. So I think that is one thing which I'm really, really cautious about. The other thing to bear in mind is that enterprise adoption will take time, right? So there is a B2C side of it where consumers are actually using it very actively, which we'll talk about later. But enterprise adoption will take time. And change management and organizational alignment will be the key, right? So for anyone at a CTO level, CIO level, CAIO level, everyone is talking about it, but I think they need to be really, really sharp at managing the change, making sure that the organization is ready, and there are the thinking is embedded in deep use cases which solve actual problems rather than just showing that we are doing Gen AI and looking good. Now, I think what it also means from a people perspective is people are always change resistant. But this change, I think, is going to hit people really, really hard. And if you are change averse, I think it's time to start opening up to the possibilities, because the impact is going to run across different areas. And there may be implications in terms of your job content and how you do the job. Having said that, I think Gen AI is the new kid on the block, but traditional analytics, I think the power of that should not be discounted. And that's still, things like recommender systems, fraud detection systems, and everything, they are still going to play a pivotal role. Gen AI would look at a different set of use cases, which we can talk about later. But broadly, I think those are the big themes which come to my mind, Priya.
Right. I really appreciate the depth you brought to that answer, Neeraj, and it sets this tone for how layered and complex this space is. And I think I've also heard a couple of other while talking to other speakers on the podcast, a lot of people have also mentioned that enterprise adoption will take time. And I also really liked your point that change management is a very crucial thing, and of course highly ignored. And it needs to be sharp, and organizations really need to make sure that they're adopting AI to solve some actual problems, and rather than just showing that, okay, yeah, we are using AI. So I think this is a very new technology. It is also changing how companies work, because they're offering exciting opportunities for those who work with independent contractors. Now I feel that So initially, when AI came into the picture, when organizations were in a race to adopt AI, they were just, merely adopting it. They didn't have a proper strategy to adopt it, and that's the reason why most of the AI projects were failing. So why do promising technologies often fall short in organization? I think more often than not, the issue stems from a mix of human behavior or organization culture, like you mentioned, change management, and how changes are embraced. Now, take for example a new tool designed to improve workflows, right? So leadership might be excited about its potential, but months later it remains unused. So the problem isn't always the technology. I think while you mentioned that change management is just when we are adopting or while working in AI with AI. So what are some other challenges that you have faced in your journey till date, and how did you overcome that?
That's a great question, right? And like any technology, there are early adopters, and then it goes up with the maturity curve. I think when I think about reflecting on the challenges, the two sides come to mind, right? So one is the demand side, which is in terms of the users who want this at a client end, and the other is supply side in terms of the capabilities which they have to service that demand. So I think I previously talked about importance of getting the data assets in place to be able to use AI. How do you take the clients, or how do you take your organization on a journey to make sure that there is no magic wand. So unless you have the data platform, the ecosystem in place to be able to do analytics, it is not going to happen on its own. And what ends up happening is it becomes a multi-year data project where the IT teams are struggling hard to bring all the data together. Now, even if they bring the data together, they may not necessarily have the experience to how to structure that data properly to be able to build data science and ML AI algorithms on top of that. So that's one part of it. Now, something as industry professionals, what we have also been guilty of is ensuring that the talent which we have, the analysts we have, the data scientists we have, they understand the why behind what they are doing, and they connect them to the business matrices. So often, what happens is folks they want to do the best, most sophisticated algorithm without really understanding how it will be used. What is the metric which the business owner cares about rather than what you are trying to do. So as you rightly mentioned, right, majority of the analytics models, they never make their way into the production, either because folks haven't thought about the data, they haven't thought about the scalability, or they haven't thought about integration with the end applications. So that's the supply side of it in terms of the ability of data and what data science teams bring to the table. The demand side part, as we previously discussed, right, there is a change management aspect with clients is hard. And don't get me wrong, right, everyone is trying to do their day jobs. They have quarterly targets to meet. Now, asking them to change the way they have operated while they have to deliver on their numbers, their objectives, is hard. And then if you have folks in the business with a lot of experience, and asking them to change the way they have operated just because a predictive model is saying so, that change management and that acceptance is really hard, and educating the clients and taking them on a journey is really, really important. Last but not the least, on the demand side, it's easy to build a model and say this is available for scoring, but how do you embed AI in a way whether it's a way of being rather than being a side project which dies its natural death? That transition is hard because how would you do structure an engagement where AI inputs or the data which we have is actually used on a day-to-day basis for decision making, and that's where organizations struggle quite a bit.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that, Neeraj. And I think what truly stands out is that the journey in AI is rarely linear. I mean, it's full of trial, error, adaptation, and constant learning, I feel. So whether it's navigating algorithmic complexity or tackling the bias in data sets, I think each challenge carries with it an opportunity for growth, I feel. I want to kind of steer our conversation to the other side of AI. I mean, as AI continues to advance, I want to talk about the other side of the coin. I want to address the ethical side of AI model training. Now, such considerations encompass various aspects like bias, transparency, social manipulation, privacy, security, and of course, how can we forget job displacement? Now, by understanding and addressing these ethical challenges, I think we can ensure that. How we are implementing AI. I mean, we need to ensure that AI is responsible and it is, equitable in our society. So, how do you manage these ethical and social considerations in terms of AI development?
That's a great point and a very, very important point in terms of where we're headed. So I think the baseline hygiene factor is making sure that the data privacy considerations are factored in. So essentially, do we have the right consent to use the data which we are using for the applications we want to use? And a lot of companies have ethics board. They have internal teams which keep an eye in terms of the data privacy considerations. And then the next emerging theme is the whole concept around responsible AI. So how do you develop algorithms which factor in bias, fairness, and those considerations? And what we definitely do at our end is to make sure that we have software libraries, we have frameworks which are industry wide now to look at our algorithms and say, is there a bias? And this bias could come in from bias in the training data, the bias in the kind of algorithmic parameters which we are putting in. So there are multiple considerations which come about when you think about the ethics and how you do this. The other big theme is explainable AI, because if you go for black box algorithm, and with Gen AI, I think this will be much harder because we have billions of parameters in a black box model. So it's very hard to explain why the model is saying what it is saying. So traditional AI ML approaches, I think they have matured in terms of the responsible AI and explainability considerations. But Gen AI is going to be a completely different ball game. Now, I think if you zoom out broadly and look at the industry right now, a lot of the Gen AI models are being trained on the data on the internet, which in itself could be biased. There may be attempts to steer the model in a particular way because of data which is corrupt and not good for use. And then this whole concept of around synthetic data, which is being generated by AI models. So imagine a Gen AI model which is learning something from the data which is not accurate. That would reflect in terms of the kind of responses we get from it. And now if those responses are further used to fine tune and refine the model ahead, then that bias and inaccuracy that just propagates. So those are going to be important considerations. And right now what we are witnessing in the industry is there are several research teams across the globe which are working at looking at all those elements. So long story short, I think it's slightly it's very matured in terms of traditional ML applications, but it's still fairly evolving in terms of Gen AI, and is an exciting career choice area for people who are interested in building a career there.
Right, definitely. Thank you for diving into this, nuanced space and helping us understand how you approach it. AI development so responsibly, because at the end I feel that the ethical and societal concerns isn't just a talk for the tech teams. I think it requires a stronger collaboration across legal, policy, C-level executives, stakeholders, all coming together and ensuring that whatever technologies that are building, they are elevating humanity and rather than complicating. And like you said that it's a really exciting time because we have Jenny in the picture today, and it's kind of shaping our entire workplace, or changing the role of jobs today. I feel while 20 to 50 million new jobs are expected by 2030, AI is enhancing and creating more jobs rather than kind of displacing it, as originally what the myth is. So. I think the economy is kind of expected to benefit from this increased productivity and output. But I believe that as AI is continuing to evolve, understanding its impact on the overall employment and economy is also very crucial. So, what role do you think that AI will play in creating new jobs and reshaping the existing ones?
That's a great question, and I think it's spot on because given this is a transformation of the order of industrial revolution and the launch of internet, there'll be a lot of implications. So let's start with what is the impact on existing job families. Now, I think this impact is quite nuanced, and as we discussed earlier, I think the level of imagination and creativity business leaders bring, irrespective of the industry, irrespective of the job function they are in, so that imagination would be a constraint. But fundamentally, if I look at the digital landscape and I look at the white collared jobs, software engineering as a function is going to be massively transformed. I think you can read the press and organizations who have moved to GitHub Copilot, and they're using some of the tools, Gen AI tools. They're reporting efficiency gains of up to 20 to 30%, which means that the days of plain vanilla code writing, I think a lot of that could be done by machine, and engineering paradigm needs to shift from thinking about complex architectures rather than writing codes. So that's one. We already see that some of the job areas which were very niche and required specialized expertise, they are going for a change. So product design and UX teams. So today we have multiple tools which can be used to create prototypes in minutes, and typically we take a lot of back and forth in terms of thinking about how does the design of a product look like. But now you can develop hundreds of prototypes at much cheaper cost, much faster, and then you can iterate them and put them in production much faster. um, i was uh, I was listening to a podcast where someone mentioned that the movie industry, where people were reliant on niche organizations to film a particular scene or build a completely different kind of a visual impact. They are able to do that much faster. So that's another area. Traditional product management, writing a product requirement document, collating details, coordinating with other teams, that can be done much faster. That frees up a lot of time for people to actually lean in on solving real customer problems and getting deeper into customer needs rather than do a traditional day-to-day alignment across teams. Data analysis, I think we already have early signs where you can throw data at Gen AI models and you can get early insights. Now, traditionally, you would depend upon someone with SQL skills, Python skills to be able to do that. But the way the industry is moving, all of this work is ripe for being democratized, and people can do this. And then there are a lot of areas like management consulting, where the entry level jobs require a lot of research into the industry, understanding the competition and things like that. Now, solutions like deep research from Gen AI, they can do that in 20 to 30 minutes. So the whole dynamics in terms of who we hire, what do we hire them for, that's going to change significantly. Now, we've spoken about the impact on existing job families, but like any tech evolution, there are new job families which come up, which I think is a very clean slate right now, and a lot of people can make big careers out of those. So they include AI engineers. So ML engineering has been around, and still there's a lot of demand supply mismatch in terms of availability of that skill set. But Gen AI takes it one level further. So AI engineering, I believe, is going to be a very hot area going forward, a new job family. Prompt engineering. Again, if that paradigm of prompts remains, which is still questionable, the ability to write prompts to get the right answers from a Gen AI model and use it for actual production use cases, I think that's going to be another job family which will come up. AI product management. I think a lot of product managers, as I described earlier, that job family is going to change. And given that every organization, every industry is trying to do digital transformation today, AI product managers who understand the concept of data science and AI models, they understand data, they understand prompt engineering, and they have the skills and the curiosity to come up with unique designs. I think that is going to be another hot area which will come up. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of transformation. But more than being worried about the job loss, I think people who are flexible with change, and who have the curiosity and appetite to learn, I think they could be in big demand as we evolve.
Right, that's such an important perspective to unpack, especially at a time when the conversation around AI often leans, heavily towards the fear of job displacement. But it's equally vital to shine a light on the flip side. I think the opportunity AI isn't just eliminating, repetitive or manual tasks. It is also redefining how we think about the entire, work itself. So I think we spoken about your how you've led innovation, navigated complex challenges, and also helped shape the AI landscape in incredible ways. But if you could travel back in time and have a quick coffee with your younger self right at the start of your AI journey, what's the one piece of advice you would like to give?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And as I said, right, it's easier to connect the dots looking backward. But there are two or three key learnings, right? So one is honing in early in the ability to align business matrices with AI matrices and not just focus on the technical side. I think that's something which people should do early in their careers, because that would help them to be massively successful in the longer run. I think a lot of our curriculum today, if you look at how data science and analytics is taught, and I visit some of the B schools and I teach there, and I've come to a realization, right, that we have only sold the algorithmic side, but we have under-indexed as an industry in terms of the investing in the ability to tell stories with numbers, right? To influence people, to drive change. I think that's something which I would over-invest in. And last but not the least, I think that's true for everyone. Never stop learning, and this area is ripe for change, and it will continue to evolve. So never stop learning and continue to invest in your growth. And with the changing paradigms is going to be really really important as we progress. But yeah, those would be a couple of things which come to my mind, Priya.
Thank you for that, Neeraj. And I think you rightly said that learning is the only constant in life, I believe. But having said it, I think the future of AI is bright. With ongoing advancements in technology, I think it will continue to redefine how we interact with these intelligent systems. And the journey of AI from its inception to the present day is a testament to human curiosity, innovation, and of course, its potential to further, innovate and ensure that they bring in more smarter systems, making our lives more simpler. So thank you so much, Neeraj, for your time and effort today, and thank you for helping us gain more insights about your role of leadership, your resilience, your foresight, in this fast changing landscape, and of course the personal piece of advice that you gave for the next generation of AI leaders was a perfect way to ground our conversation in experience and wisdom. So thank you so much. It was lovely chatting with you, Neeraj, and thank you for sharing your insights with our listeners. It was really lovely talking to you.
Thanks for having me, Priya.
Thank you so much, Neeraj. This is for our listeners. As always, our goal on this podcast is to spark meaningful conversations and help you, our listeners, walk away with some insights that you can apply in your own organizations and careers. So, whether you're a tech enthusiast or an enterprise leader or someone just beginning your AI journey, I just hope that this today's episode offered valuable perspectives. Of course, don't forget to follow us on our favorite podcast platform. Share it with your network if you think it could inspire someone else as well. Thank you so much.